Hey guys, how you doing? There's a lot of videos out that show how to reball, but there's not that many that really show you what you need for parts if you're just starting out and you want to do something, on the cheap. You don't have a whole lot of money to spend, but you want to get into it, do a little practice, and then maybe upgrade later on. So I just want to go over a few of the things you're going to need if you want to start off doing some reballing or even some reflowing. So first things first, this is one of the most important things you're going to buy. This is a fairly cheap one. It's a T8280 preheating table, infrared, and this is about $180 for this. You can find them online. It works really well. It's pretty accurate. It gets up to temperature pretty good. It comes with these kind of cheap brackets to hold the board on, but they work. If you tighten them up real good, they hold the board pretty straight too. One thing I would recommend that I actually don't even have right now is a brace for the main board. You can bolt it down to. I plan on making one, so you can find them online, but the people ask outrageous amounts for them. Some people are, $70-80 for just a brace. You can go to Lowe's, Home Depot, get some flat stock, some metal. I have a welder, so I'm just going to weld up my own, and hopefully it'll work. So like I said, they have more expensive ones of these. Again, this is stuff you can buy that's fairly cheap, that'll still get the job done. So the next thing you're going to want to get is either an infrared or a hot air rework station, and that's this piece right here. This is a hot air gun. So this is a SAIC 898D. These are about $100. You can get these online. This is the 2-in-1. Comes with a soldering station too. It's a fairly good soldering iron. One thing I would definitely recommend is to upgrade this though. Unless you preheat your chips or your board and keep them nice and warm, this will not remove lead-free solder very well. And the problem is, it gets plenty hot enough. It goes up to 480 degrees Celsius, which is plenty hot enough for the solder. But the problem is, the ceramic heating element in here loses heat very fast. And then when it tries to compensate, it's going to overshoot that heat because the temperature sensor is not very close to the tip in here. It's back in here. So it's going to overshoot that temperature, and you're going to end up ruining the board. In fact, I have one here I can show you what will happen if you cheap out. Let's see. I have a completely junk board in here. Don't mind my wallpaper. See if I can get this in the light. I don't know if I'm even going to be able to zoom in on this. Let's see. If you look right here, you can see that it's actually taking the pads and it's taking off the masking on the board, and it's actually merged those pads together. It actually got too hot. It was actually not getting hot enough to take off the solder very well, but when it overshot, it got hot enough to take the masking right off the board. So this board is now junk because of that. So basically when that happens, you're kind of screwed. There's not much you can do to fix that. There's a couple more right there that did the same thing. So this was an early practice board. It's no good anymore. So definitely want to upgrade this. This is good for other work, I guess. I don't know what else you would do. The basic soldering, I guess. But as far as removing solder from the boards or from the chips, you would definitely want to change this. It's not very accurate. It's a cheap soldering iron. The tips are actually fairly well made. I really like these tips on this. It almost makes me sad to get rid of it because it comes with a whole bunch of when you buy this thing. And there's really small ones, so this would work good for really intricate fine work. And it's got an adjustable temperature on here. So you can see it going up there. So it's a nice iron, but it's just not very stable, I guess you should say. Jovi makes a iSolder 40, which from all the reviews I've read is a really nice soldering iron. That's going to be my next purchase. It's fairly cheap. And again, this is to do stuff on the cheap. This is not going out and buying the best stuff to start off with. This is if you're starting to think about doing this or want to try it, but don't want to dump a whole bunch of money in case it doesn't work out. This is the stuff you want to get. And I've tried all this stuff. This is what I'm using currently, and it does work. I even use this soldering iron right now. I just make sure that my board is nice and hot when I try to remove the solder, and I'll even take my chip and I will move these really close together, and I'll set my chip right in the middle of the preheater and I'll warm it up, and that works really well. I took a old lamp stand from Home Depot. It was about $19 for this lamp stand, and I basically just took the lamp off. I got some conduit clamp here, put a little high temperature foam in here, just kind of holds the nozzle nice and steady, and I put a wing nut on it so I can loosen this and tighten it. I can take the nozzle back out. It works really well. It's articulating, stays right where I put it. So it's got a weighted base. As long as you don't push down real hard, you won't tip it over or anything. It works really good, and it's cheap. So you can buy stands online too. They're about $70, I think they're asking for them, which is kind of ridiculous. But just go to Home Depot and make one. Next thing is the nozzle. This is a AOYUE nozzle. Let me see if I can show underneath. It has the screen underneath. Helps disperse the heat better around the chip so it's not just blowing out straight. This is about $25 for this right here, and that's shipped. That's online. This is another one I bought, kind of a off-brand one. When I first ordered it, it had to come from Hong Kong. This one came from a US seller. I always recommend trying to find a US seller. They come quicker, and if you do need to do returns, you don't have to do international shipping. So it works out a lot better. But this was actually the same price, and it's a lot cheaper quality. Next really important piece of equipment that you're going to want to get is a good temperature sensor, temperature meter. This is a K-type temperature thermocouple, and it's a X-Tech meter. I don't recommend this meter. There's some other ones that are online that are actually cheaper than this. I paid about $80 for this from Radio Shack. It's not very accurate. I actually had to take it apart, and there's some pots on the inside that you can adjust, make it a little bit better. I just used known temperatures to adjust it. One of them being I just put the probe under my tongue and turned it until it was 98.6. When I first got it, it was reading 84, which is way off, especially when you're doing a GPU lift. I mean, that's the difference between just getting it off the board and killing the chip. So definitely want to either adjust it yourself or just buy one, a good one. Okay, next piece is going to be a reballing jig. This is a aluminum one. You can get some even cheaper plastic ones, but this is only about 80 bucks. It's worth it. Just get the aluminum one. It's a lot more sturdy. Works really well. And they come with a lot of the plates already with them. You can get a whole bunch of different ones. Grab some of these here. So these are some of the ones they came with. So you have PS3 and Xbox ones here. So you have the South Bridge on the Xbox. They label these wrong a lot, so watch out for that. So I just wrote South Bridge on it. Not that I didn't know what it was, but when I first got it, I just wanted to make sure. This is for a PS3 CPU. Another PS3. I mean, there's a whole bunch of them. This is a Xbox 360 CPU. This is for the HANA, the output chip. The cache or memory, RAM on Xbox. PS3 GPU. The one in there right now is the Xbox 360 GPU and another newer CPU one here. They actually, let me see if I can find this. You can actually see, I don't know if you can read that. That's supposed to say Hana, H-A-N-A, but it says haha. So, like I said, they mess up sometimes on these, but it doesn't really matter. You'll be able to figure it out by looking at the bottom of the chip what it goes to. So, there's not really two that are real similar, so you'll know what it is when you get it. Okay, that brings me to the solder balls. These are the actual balls that you're going to use to reball the chip. So when you buy these kits, a lot of times they'll come with them. They're okay. I found that the ones that come with them seem to be sticky. They actually stick together a lot. So most of these templates call for 0.06 balls, which are these ones, or 0.6 balls, sorry, 0.6 millimeter, which is these ones right here. And that's fine, but it's actually a little bit easier if you just get 0.55 balls. So these they fall through the holes a little bit better. They don't get stuck as easy, and they separate a little bit better on the chip. And when you're actually going to melt them onto the pads on the chip, you won't get as many trying to merge together because there's a little bit more gap in between each chip. So I recommend doing the 0.55. They still work perfectly fine on the board. Next would be flux. Okay, this is Kingbo flux. Super cheap flux. I mean, you get this stuff. It's ridiculous how cheap this is. I use this for taking the chips off the board. It works really well. It does not seem to burn as easy. You can actually get it really hot, and it seems to stay a lot longer on the board and work a lot longer than other fluxes I've used. So it works really well for taking the chips off the board. I also use it for the final stage of my reball, where I really get them to seat to the pads. I won't really go over that too much, but yeah, I mean that's pretty much it. I just have a brush in here. They come with a brush. I also use a little syringe right here that I fill up. I actually just suck it up into here, and it's really easy to squirt it around the GPU if you use one of these. I'm gonna get a bigger one. This one doesn't hold very much. It doesn't last very long, but it's really easy to fill it up every time. But I'm definitely gonna get a bigger one. The other flux that I recommend, a lot of people use quick chips. I don't like quick chips, just personal preference. This is Amtech 4300. This stuff is awesome. It's tacky flux, so I will use this for the first stages of reball, where you actually put a little bit on the chip. So this is a south bridge right here. So you take a little bit, put it in the middle, spread it around, and then you wipe almost all of it off. You don't want hardly any left on there when you're reballing it. Just enough so the balls will stick to the pad. And then when you heat it up, you'll see them jump onto their pads a little bit. Once you get them so they're kind of stuck on there, then I'll take the Kingbo and I'll just saturate it, get it really wet, and then I'll really seat them on there really good, and then clean it off really well. And then I'll also use the Amtech for putting the chip back onto the board, for reflowing it back on. It works really well for that too. Pretty much any time that I can clean it off, I'll use the Kingbo. If I'm not going to clean it off, I use the Amtech. So, alright, that's enough about flux. Okay, to add a little bit more to the hot air station, another thing you want to get is sorted tips. These usually do come with the machine. This one works really well for seating the balls back onto the pads. I prefer this one. Either this one or this one here, the next size down, seem to work really well. The little one doesn't work very well for that, but this is good for getting really small chips off the board if you just want to heat them up and pull them off. Stuff like diodes or small RAM chips or something like that. So this little square one, I haven't really found a use for this yet. It just comes in the kit. So Alright, so now on to the smaller things that you're going to need. One being a vacuum pen. This is a really cheap one. I think it's like $5, if not less. But it works really, really well. The only downfall of this is each time you use it, if you push down a little bit too hard, you're not going to be able to see this, but you can actually push the little suction cup down past the nozzle. See how it's sticking out a little bit at the end? Obviously you can't lift a chip like that. It will just hit the chip and it won't get any suction. So every time I go to use it, I just make sure that I push it just past it, so it's inside of the suction cup. So that make sure you get a good suction on there to pull the chip off. Alright, next thing would be solder braid. This is Rework. By far the best stuff I have ever used. I've tried the Radio Shack stuff. Crap. Might as well just throw this in trash. It's all crusty and old and it does not work good. It just snags up on the chip really bad. It's all matted down. It's just nasty stuff, so don't use that. This stuff is awesome. It's really, really, really flexible. It's really soft, and I mean, this just sucks it up like a friggin' pump. It's crazy how much you can actually hold in this. It's ridiculous, and it works really well. It's really soft. It glides across the pad and the board really well. It doesn't like to snag up. This is the 3mm, 1.5 meter. I prefer the 3mm. You can go a little bit thinner, 2.5. I think they make a 3.5 too. Don't quote me on that. A little bit wider, that would work good too. But I like the 3. It's easy to come by, and this is cheap. It's like $5 for this roll, $5 or $6. Watch out. There's a lot of scammers out there. Honestly, though, I've gotten the cheap stuff too. This one might actually be. You can kind of tell by the lip here, the real Rework, how the lip on here is made. But this works really, really well. So I always try to find somebody that's selling the genuine stuff. This usually comes from overseas, but there's a couple of US sellers that sell this too. Okay, another thing is tools. You're going to need some tools to get these things open. On the PS3, really the only thing you'll need other than just a Phillips screwdriver to get the case open is a T15 Torx, just to take the security screw out of the first cover. So just make sure you have a T15 Torx. As far as Xboxes, you're going to have I think it's a T8 Torx with the security dimple in it. You're going to want one of those. And a T10 Torx as well. This one also has a security dimple in the middle, just in case. You can get these usually as a set, really cheap, a couple bucks, it's worth it. So you can get these online, you can get these at any hardware store, Home Depot, whatever. So I think they're T8 and T10. Honestly, these ones don't even say on them. I just know they fit. So, alright, next is going to be one of these. These are great. This is an Xbox opening tool. All those stupid little tabs in the back that you have to pop open. Usually people just use like a flathead screwdriver. End up mangling the case all up, right? Just get one of these. They're really, really cheap. I don't even remember what I paid for this, like $10. Next thing would be Kapton tape. This is a heat reflective tape. I use it to protect things on the board, such as the RAM chips, stuff you don't want to get too hot. Make sure you press it down really good. If you get the good quality stuff, not the stuff that comes with this stuff, a lot of these will come with them. Like when I bought this, I think I got a roll of this. When I bought the jig, I think I got a roll of this. The stuff that comes with it's kind of cheap. It works fine, but it doesn't stick down under high heat as well. This is actually a roll of the cheap stuff, but you can buy it a little bit nicer. This is not very expensive either, so get some of that. Another thing you want to get to cover large areas, and sticks a little bit better, is aluminum tape. You can get this at Home Depot. It's like $20 for a roll like this, but it'll last you forever. I mean, this is a lot of aluminum tape. I also use my capped on tape to make these little tents. I used aluminum tape, just a couple of just laid a couple pieces, made it kind of thick so I could bend it, and then just cut it to length, and then covered that in capped on tape. And these work really well for covering things like the CPU at the other end. You can just lay it on there, you don't have to put aluminum tape on here. You can put this on this side, cover that. If you didn't cover up these chips, you could lay these here. You can make more of them, go all the way around if you want. It works really well. A little bit better than sticking the tape on. I stick it on this side primarily because I like to look under the chip on this side, so I want to keep it nice and low. But on the other sides I usually use just the tents. So just make up a couple of these. They work really well. Okay, another tool I use is this. This is actually a chip remover. When you get one of these, I think it came free in one of these kits. Can't remember which one. It'll have another fork on it, and you use this to slide under the chip. You know, you slide each fork under it and you lift it up off the board. These things suck, I think, for lifting them off the board. I like the vacuum pen better. So what I did is I actually just cut off one of the forks, and I actually use this to pick up the solder balls. It works really well, believe it or not. Let me see if I can find one here. This isn't really a solder ball. It's just like a piece of solder that fell off. But let me show you. Let me see if I can get it to stick to this. Oh, that might be a little bit too big. Wish I could find a real one here. What's this over here? Here we go. Okay, you're probably not even going to be able to see this at all. Okay, you can kind of see it here. But you can actually just touch this to the end of it, and you'll see it actually sticks to the end of this. I don't know if you can even see that, but it's on the end of it. So I don't know why, the static or whatever, but you can use this to put them on the chips, and they don't stick enough that when you put them on the chip, the flux will actually make it stick to the chip and come off of this. So it's really easy to pick them up. Sometimes they're a pain in the ass. Just like that. Picked it right up. So, and then you can put this back onto the chip. See, it comes right back off. Sorry, that's really blurry. But, yeah, it works really well. So, and it was free. Came with it. So you can't beat that. Okay, next up on the basic stuff is isopropyl alcohol. You can use MEK too. Works really well. But isopropyl is, you can find this anywhere. Make sure it's 91% or higher. The less water, the better. Works really well for cleaning the board off, cleaning the chips off, cleaning your tools off. I use this stuff. This is, I think, 70%. I use this just for cleaning my basic tools. In the bench, I'll spray this on the bench and wipe it down. It gets off all the old flux and everything else off the bench. It's a lot cheaper, and you can get it in bigger bulk usually. So this is pretty cheap. Next is going to be thermal compound. Okay, this is the Arctic alumina. This is thermal adhesive. This is used on the PS3 to put the heat spreader back onto the GPU and the CPU. It's a two-part, so you have an A and a B. You mix them together and you put it on there. It's white. It works really well. It takes about 5 to 10 minutes to really set up where you can mess around with the chip and not knock the heat spreader back off. Once it cures with heat, though, it's on there good. And then this is what I use for actual thermal paste. This is Arctic MX4. This is a carbon-based thermal paste. It's non-conductive, which is the big thing. Arctic Silver actually is a little bit conductive. So if you ooze some out onto the board or onto a component on the chip or a trace that's exposed, it can actually conduct a little bit if you use Arctic Silver. So I use this MX4. And you can get it in these little bit bigger tubes. This is a 20-gram tube. This will last a long time. I mean, you only use a little bit. I've probably done, geez, with this tube alone, probably 10 or 12 Xboxes and PS3s, and I mean, I've barely even moved it. It's only the first little notch, so this works really well. So buy this. It's a little bit expensive, but when you think about it, it really isn't, because it goes a long ways. Okay, so the next thing you're going to need is some brushes. This is just a standard old toothbrush that I had. This is good for cleaning old thermal compound off the board. It's soft enough that it won't damage the board or the chip, but it's a little bit stiff, so you can get that thermal compound off. When this isn't enough to get it off, I use this. This is an anti-static brush. Make sure it's anti-static. You don't want to shock the chip. Not that I've ever had it happen even when I wasn't using anti-static brushes, but it is a possibility. So get an anti-static brush. This is a little bit stiffer bristled. It's pretty stiff. You have to be a little bit more gentle with this, but a little bit of isopropyl alcohol, and you can pretty much clean anything off the board and not damage it. So it's a good thing to have. So I guess that's pretty much it. It's pretty much everything you'll need to get started on the cheap. The stuff really didn't cost me that much money. You're still going to spend a little bit to get started, especially buying donor boards. When you first start, you're going to go through a lot. I'll just bring you into my closet. These are where I keep some of my junk boards. So got like 3 PS3 boards here, a couple Xbox boards. Actually, one of these is still good. It just needs some chips on it. But I've killed a bunch of traces doing them. So you're gonna want some donors. These are parts ones here. So some of these can be fixed, but a couple of these are just ones that I screwed up, honestly, when I first started. So you're gonna kill some. I've heard of people going through 50 of them before they get the process right. The biggest thing is the temperatures, and you're gonna find a lot of profiles out there, but it's different for every machine. It's different for every climate, humidity, everything. So don't go by other people's temperatures. Honestly, just invest some money. You're gonna go through some money just killing boards. That's the only way you're gonna get it right. I mean, I make notes up here of PS3, Xbox, what seems to work really well for me without killing them. The biggest thing is just do not get it over temperature. That's why a good thermocouple and thermometer is a really good investment, and that is one of my next things I'm going to get. I've gotten to the point now where even if this falls off, I can get them off without damaging them usually. So that kind of brings me to another point. If you're going to be doing this, invest. These are actually from other boards, but go online, get some extra GPUs and CPUs. Okay, you're probably going to kill a few. Actually, I guarantee you're going to kill a few. So just invest in some extra chips. All right, you'll thank yourself. That way you don't have a board sitting here with a chip that you've killed that you can't put back together, and you got somebody waiting on it, and they're pissed off. Just get some chips. Just put it on. Worry about the other one later. So that's, I guess, that's my last piece of advice. So that's it. This is my shop setup. Nothing special. It's in a spare room downstairs. That's pretty much it, though. That should be everything you need to get going. All right? Thanks.